I'm back from my trip out to Utah for the Matt's Off-Road Games, and this wrecker went through one heck of a trail. We ran the wreckers through Nasty Half, a level 9 out of 10 rated trail. Today, I thought we'd take a look at what damage the vehicle might have taken and what ended up breaking. Let's start with just the overall cleanliness of this thing. This thing was pretty clean when I left, but there was rainstorms and snowstorms and all kinds of stuff that we went through, and it is just covered in dirt and salt and sand and everything from the trip. We had to climb some really steep things, and it was really pushing the approach angle of the vehicles. And I'm glad to see that really I only have a few scuffs and scratches, and it doesn't look like it did any damage to the front bumper at all. Probably a few new scratches, nothing major. Coming along the side, looks like there's a little dent here, might have been there before, but definitely this is new. The step is pushed up a bit, smashed up along the rocks. I'm thinking that maybe I need to remove this or maybe build some rock sliders that go underneath them. This is a 70-year-old truck, so I'm not sure of all the damage that happened here, but this looks kind of fresh that this was pushed up here. Surprisingly, this truck fared really well for what we were putting it through. Again, here on the back, this might have been pushed in just slightly. I was worried about my taillights, so I did tuck those up before I went. Does not look like any damage happened to the rear of the vehicle. You can still see that red Utah sand stuck on everything as it hit the ground, but it didn't mangle the back of the truck at all. Here again, there's a little dent here in this fender, but that might have been there before. The step on this side also got hit. This was not bent like this. Oh, and it buckled it up here. So I need to straighten this out, maybe make some rock sliders right here. We have the same little bend here on the rear fender. Looks like the rear of the front fender got squashed a little bit. And it also bent my flag mount, and both of my lights came loose and flopped around enough that the ground wire broke on them. Luckily, the idea I had of making these magnetic worked a lot, so when I hit things or something hit them, they just fell loose, but you can see the ground wire that was still holding on, that broke on both sides, so these lights don't work anymore. Fixing them will be as simple as just reattaching this wire here. Also, for some reason, only one of my rear lights back here work anymore. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's a ground wire issue as well, or it's possible that the bulb in this fixture just got vibrated to death. So that's all the superficial damage that I know about right now. Let's put it up on the lift and take a look underneath. Looking underneath it, doesn't look like there's much of any scrapes there on the front axle. And I was really worried how far this new exhaust hangs down, but it doesn't look like it hit anything at all. Looks like we might have got one little nick on the bottom of the brake booster. That's the other thing I was worried about. That hangs down not in the best place. I've thought about making that skid plate a little bit stronger. Wow, I don't remember the cross member being bent like that, but I don't see any scratches, so maybe it was. Right there's the new fuel pump that I added when I was out at Sand Hollow, hidden up there really well. And it doesn't look like there's much of any scratches or damage to the rear axle either. It's a lot of that red Sand Hollow sand here mixed in with the oil that's coming out of the differential. Here we get a really good look underneath the back. No big dents or scratches, pretty amazing. The big thing that happened at the end of the trail, I thought that I broke one of the axles, and now I'm thinking that I actually broke the lunchbox locker. So I want to pull both axle shafts out, and then we'll pull the differential out and see what actually broke. This axle looks just fine. I'll take the other side off, and then I need to get the drive shaft out so I can get the differential out. But luckily these are fully floating hubs, so the wheel can stay attached, and I don't need any axles there to hold the wheels on. I can actually take the plates off the ends of those axle shafts, put them back on here, and even though there's no axles in here, this truck could still be drivable. I don't know if you can see that, but there's just tons of little sparkly metal flakes in that oil that's coming out of there. It's just filled with metal flakes. Well, here's the differential out. The pins inside the locker broke. This edge here has been worn down. It's just been shaved down. Up in here, there's some loose pins just sitting in there that have been sheared off. There's even a piece of metal jammed in here. Let's take a look in the housing. Yeah, look at that. Huge chunks of metal. Oh, there's even a little spring sitting there. I need to get this all wiped out, cleaned out. Can't have any of this sitting in here. This is so bad. I didn't realize there was this much metal in here. I really broke that thing. Look at that mess. Well, there's the pile of stuff that came out of there. Pretty big pile of metal. Luckily, the company Quick Performance is just down the street from me, so I was able to rely on their expertise on exactly what for sure was broken and not usable again, which is pretty much everything. So this is the big pile of old and broken parts. You see that bearing there, it's not even round anymore. It's missing some of the rollers. And so this is what I got back from Quick Performance. You can see the air line right here, and then there's a bulkhead fitting right here. So I'll put a fitting on this that will be connected to the air hose. The air goes through and then activates the locker when I need it. Let's get this thrown back in and get the truck drivable again. So here's my new gasket, but before I can put this on, I need to get all of the old gasket off, which means I need to go get my super scraper and scrape this clean. This is a super scraper. It has a hardened machine edge on it, and this is great for this exact purpose, and these are even made here just down the street here in Iowa. Even though I have this completely clean, there's still going to be imperfections in the metal here. So when I go to put the gasket on, I'm going to put RTV sealant on both sides of the gasket, as well as in each of the holes where the bolts go, to keep it from leaking any oil out. Because if I don't put any sealant there, this definitely will leak. I want to do the same thing with the drain plug. I'm going to put a little bit of RTV along it. This thing was designed in the 1940s, and they didn't really care if things leaked back then. Now I can put my axles back in, connect the drive shaft, put some gear oil in, and this thing will be back on the road. Now I want to fix these lights. So the ground is broken right here. I need to undo all these zip ties so I can get this wiring and fix it. Okay, I have the loom pulled back. I have the wires stripped, put on my heat shrink that I'll be putting on afterwards. And then I'm going to use one of these crimp connections. I'll just slide that on the end of both wires, crimp it together, and then slide my heat shrink over that. That's back together. Now I can tie everything back up. I have the wiring fixed on both sides. Let's see if it works. Side's working. That side's working. Looks like it's all fixed. Now let's figure out what's wrong with the other light over here. If I pull the back of this off, we can see the wiring. We have the ground here, power wire in there. So let's see if we have any power up here. Let's check the ground first. If the ground is good, it should beep. You can see that's got a good ground. We don't have a good ground up here. Let's see if we have any power up here. We don't have any power either, so both the power and ground come up through this cabling here. So we might have a problem at the connector. Or maybe the whole thing got cut in half. Wiring for this light runs along here. We've got our first connector right here. Looks like that's connected fine. Then it runs behind there, over to here. Looks like all 4 wires run up here. All 4 wires run up through this here. But then by the time they get to this relay, there are only 2 wires. So within that stretch, they combine from 4 wires into 2 wires. So I don't think the problem is right here. Maybe we need to go and check out that connector. Maybe something happened there. Unfortunately, my camera wasn't recording then. I tested the connection here, and I did have power here, and I started wiggling things and I heard sparking. So I investigated up here where I could hear it and found that the 2 wires had come loose and were connected together in here. It's unfortunate that I didn't get that on camera, but here we go. We need to reconnect these to the wire loom here, and that should solve our problem. These were just those cheap solder crimp connections. I don't think I can pull it off, so I'll have to cut those off, and I hope that's going to be long enough to reach. I have the wires crimped back together. Before I put the heat shrink on it, I want to make sure this works. And look at that, both lights are on now. I think the wires must have pulled apart here on the trail when I was going downhill and the boom slammed forward. Must have stretched those wires out. That's what we need to do to test things like this. We put the vehicle to the limit, find out what breaks, and then make it better. The last thing I need to do to get the truck back in tip-top shape is to wash off all of the salt and dirt that accumulated on it on mainly the trailer trip through the mountains and the snow. Once the truck is washed off, I can put it back into service. That's going to be it for today. I'm so happy to have my M37 back. This is a huge asset here around the shop. It's a mobile air compressor. It can jump start cars. There's a crane on the back of it. There's a lot of things that I can do with this truck. And if you're wondering about the air locker, I just have that capped off for now to keep the dirt out of it. Next time, I'm going to be expanding the compressed air system on the truck. So if you want to see that, make sure you subscribe and comment below.